Most people think that success is about becoming something or someone different. That one day, after a lifetime of hard work, hustling, and burning out, you become successful. Well, I believe that the secret to success is found in unbecoming, a practice of releasing the judgments, beliefs, and past conditioning holding you back from living a more meaningful life. And as a coach, speaker, and marketing strategist to entrepreneurs all over the world, there's one thing I know for sure. We need more honest, vulnerable conversations about what it really takes to build a successful business and life outside the box. Welcome to the Unbecoming podcast, and I'm your host, Phoebe Mroczek. I'll be here every Tuesday with a conversation you won't want to miss. You can find the show notes from today and all past episodes, as well as free resources, access to our growing international community, and behind-the-scenes footage at unbecomingpodcast.com. Thanks again for being here. Now let's jump into today's conversation. You ready? Let's do this. Yeah, you're totally speaking my language. I've been really looking at when people retire, we hear about their health declining because we're wired for this conformity rather than choice. And so if we could actually have more variety, more choice in our life, then we learn how to live. And so I love that what you're doing is allowing people to create that space to do what they want, to invest where they can, and create an outcome that they're excited about. So ultimately they have the life they want. And I read something in your book that there were a lot of things in there that I did not know. But one of the things was that you get taxed, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you get taxed less on passive income than you do on regular income. Is that right?
Yeah. So this is a pretty interesting fact that most people don't realize. The highest taxed income is earned income. So what you get from your job, what you pay yourself from your business, you get taxed higher on that than anything else that's out there. When you have investments, you're taxed less. And additionally, the other thing to consider is if you invest in real estate or other assets, even software, or anything that could be considered software. So if there's any code in it or anything like that, these things can be depreciated, which means you have a certain amount of income that you earn, but you have some magic number that allows you to decrease it because, you get to offset the profit that you made. So you pay less in taxes. And often you can accelerate it tremendously in the early years, so you don't pay any taxes. And then once you move from having earned income to having no earned income, you fall to an even lower tax bracket that most people don't even know exists as a passive investor. And so that's really where you get the best tax treatment of all.
And when we're talking about investors, right? Like what is that? What does it take to be an investor?
Well, really, it just takes a desire to learn and, the ability to take a step. I don't know that. I coach some people that have never done anything in this space before, but they were eager, they were hungry. Some of them had the means because they had saved up a lot of cash or they had sold a business, but others of them not necessarily. And so it's, really helping teach them how to think, how to have more of a wealthy mindset, and then, how to strategically make moves to be able to earn income in a way that's not dependent on their time. So even if someone doesn't necessarily have a lot of assets that they can create passive income with, there are ways to, to think about it differently so that you can start planning to make money in a way that really is independent of time, that is based on an asset, or it's based on software, or it's based on real estate, or it's based on something else.
And do you see there to be a difference between money and wealth? Are those words synonymous or not?
Yeah, to me, they're completely different. I think money is a component of wealth. I think wealth, is more of an overarching, more holistic look at, life in general. So to me, when I think of wealth, I know a lot of people think wealthy means they have a lot of money. Well, they could have a lot of money, but what if they're just wealthy with their relationships and they have some of the best relationships and they have so much joy in their life and maybe they don't earn a great income, but they found out that, life is about relationships. When you talk to someone on their dying bed, none of them talk about they wish they would have made more money. None of them talk about how, "Oh, I wish I would have worked harder at my job." None of them do. They talk about the relationships they value the most and maybe the mistakes that they made and wish that they hadn't inside those relationships. So if you can get that priority straight early on, I think a lot of wealth stems from that. So to me, it's relationships, it's health. If you don't have good health, you're not going to live long. You're not going to be able to do the things you want to do. So part of it's that. When I say health, I'm talking physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. I think living purpose is part of that you enjoy what you do and you're spending time with your God-given talents. So to me, that's what wealth is.
Well, it feels like very similar to, these blue zones, these people who live to 100, the centenarians who live over 100, and they have such a purpose, a community. They don't earn a ton of money usually. Sometimes they do, but it's all just creating a lifestyle. So there is this real emphasis on how do you create that in your life. And so in that, I feel like a lot of what you talk about is in this idea of freedom, to have freedom. And so do you equate wealth with freedom?
Yeah, without a doubt. So wealth to me is freedom, because it's freedom on the side of finances. It's freedom on the side of relationships and getting to live life the way that you want to. It's freedom from having the time. Really, to me, it's freedom of time. Like, wealth is about time more than anything. It's about freedom of time to be able to work out, to be able to engage in relationships, to be able to travel, to be able to earn the income that you desire, to have the lifestyle you desire. It's time, right? It's not money. And it's actually funny you talk about Blue Zone. So I'm part of a dad's group called Front Row Dads. And, a ton of these guys, a ton of these dads, they're amazing, amazing people. And I'm in we call it a band, or like a 4-person group with just some awesome guys. And so we call our group the Blue Zone, because of that same thing, that we want to live long, healthy lives of great impact. Not just in our own worlds. We want to impact each other's worlds and then beyond.
I used to study the blue zones because I thought it was just fascinating, and living in Asia for a long time, like really figuring out where those places were, what the secret was. And there's a good combination of it, but to me, freedom is the ultimate, I guess, desire for me personally. And I think a lot of people that listen to our show, this is all the message of Unbecoming, is how do you strip away so that you can be in your life, whatever it is that you want to be. And so if you were to think about your journey and even people that you work with, what do you believe to be something that you've had to unbecome in order, a belief you've had to let go of, or something that you've had to unbecome in order to enter this journey to wealth, or enter this, blue zone of your life? What would that be for you?
I feel like there's a ton of unbecoming that I have battled with, figured out, accomplished, because what I find, and this is true of me, it's something true of the people that I coach and the people that are in my mastermind. Like, I see this firsthand, is that we adopt the beliefs of those that have the most influence with us, sometimes to the degree that we didn't even know it was their belief in the first place. And we just assumed it as ours, just because of immersion, just because of proximity. And so there's a lot that I had to unknow or unbecome in the world of finance, because I grew up with parents being as loving as they were, very scarce around money. Right? The saying I heard all the time, money doesn't grow on trees. Okay, well, it doesn't from a literal standpoint, figuratively, it certainly can. And I learned that I needed to live in a paradigm or a world that is different than that it embraces that money is abundant, and so is health, and so are relationships. And instead of having this scarce mindset that these things are scarce resources, I need to look at them as being abundant in not only the world, but in my world in particular.
Mm. And so the people that will come in and coach with you, is there a common theme or thread of a belief that they come in thinking, oh, I could never do that. I don't know what, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what would you say is the most common belief or myth or something that you have to get through in order for them to understand what it is that you're trying to teach them?
Well, most people, I think, show up thinking that the only way to invest is the way that they've always done it and have always heard, because Wall Street really controls the education, at least in the US, but I think a lot of other places as well. Really, it's they want your money. They're on a campaign to get your money, and they're going to get it and use it in a way that serves them best. And so most people, what they do is they invest their money in the stock market. They invest their money in qualified plans. They look for tax deferrals, even though there's no guarantee that taxes aren't going to be more in the future. I tend to think that they will be because we're printing so much money. And so this whole concept of how, the norm invests, or what, like, this is just the way you do it. I think that's the biggest paradigm that people have, that, whoa, the way I thought everyone invested is actually not the way that a lot of the most successful or wealthiest financially, that people invest. And so I think those are big paradigm shifts. Wait a minute. You can invest in a way that you have cash flow and you live your life on cash flow like that. People are blown away. This is just like the most foreign concept to most people. And it's really interesting, but I really want that. I want to get that education out in the world, because the way most people do it, invest in the stock market, hope and pray that it ends up working out. Put all your eggs in that one basket, which that in itself is crazy to me, especially when you see what can happen this year and in 2008 and any other time. What if you're going to retire and what happens in the economy is like 2008?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's no control there. I would rather have more control and influence on my investments and own assets that appreciate as more money is printed, right? As the supply of money increases, so do asset values. But what if those assets are pumping off cash as well? That, to me, just makes more sense. But it's funny because most people have never even considered that as a strategy or an option, because they're inundated with what Wall Street wants them to do, what their financial planner wants them to do, right?
Which seems like what you're saying is essentially it's an outdated system, or it's just a system needing refinement, because all these people, all the financial advisors, have all been trained in this, and this is what their educational background is. If you're going to college, if you're, you have a professional graduate degree, you're learning all of this stuff. And so if you were to take on the personal finance education system, what course would you make sure that was included in there so that people had a better understanding of either their own personal finance, maybe personal or financial possibility? What would that look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. And really, like, if you think about this, Phoebe, you've got a lot of doctors that they've been medically trained a certain way, and it's hard for them to transition to like functional or holistic, because their whole frame of reference and education was like this, but to be over on this one is like the extreme. So it's the same thing with these financial planners. So some of them, I think that they're starting to realize that it's not the way, but others of them, they don't even think that there's any other way. And by the way, I'm not against the stock market. I think there are times to be in it, and I think it makes sense to buy and hold long-term positions of some assets, not all your assets, which most people do. Or they'll then invest extra assets in equity investments in companies, which is one of the riskiest strategies where you're most likely going to lose your money. So these are kind of like the two different main investment strategies I hear about. So the course that I think people need is hey, instead of investing with people that may not even subscribe to their own way of investing, the people you're investing in may not invest in these same exact vehicles or in the same way or even at all in the things that they're recommending. I would say that, take a class to learn how to buy assets, and any kind of asset. There are all kinds of different assets out there, but assets have some form of intrinsic value. They don't go to zero typically, right? And so if you lose, you're not losing big. A stock can go to zero. That company fails, but if you buy a real estate asset, it's probably not going to fail. If you invest in a loan that's backed by real estate or some other, something of value, accounts receivable, something that is worth more than that loan, that is safe. And so these are different ways of going about it. So I would just say people need to learn what cash flow investing is and what it's like to buy assets that produce income. You can buy assets that don't produce income, but if you're going to buy one, why not buy one that produces income? I think both situations are better than kind of like investing and hoping that things go well in a qualified plan where you can't touch your money until 59 and a half. And those rules can change anytime. You might not be able to take it until later, or you might be forced into certain payments, or the government might need their tax money sooner. I mean, to me, there's no utility in that type of investment. You invest it, and then you're basing it on something that you have no control and influence over, and then you can't touch it unless you're self-directing, and most people don't do that.
I find this so fascinating because we're not taught any of this stuff. And so unless you go and seek it out, and even just going through your book, and I sent you a text. I was like, this is so good. It's blowing my mind. And I was just really excited to learn more about it because I didn't know that this was possible. And so obviously that's why I wanted to have you on here, because I really do think, and our audience, I mean, it's very mixed, but I think I have a real passion for women to learn this stuff because I used to be in the microfinance for a little bit there. And I love seeing the impact. And it's proven that when women hold the finances, they make better decisions for the family and for, their unit and their community. And I love that premise. So I really hope that, the women listening, especially obviously the men too, but the women are really listening to this and take an interest, because taking control of your finances and really understanding it. And I know I have a lot of friends who they don't even look at it. Their partner looks at it. Their partner handles the money. But if you both really create a synergistic relationship where you're both looking at it and you both understand it, then again, that goes back to all the freedom that we've been talking about. And so is your business more like gender wise? Does it favor one over the other?
Well, so this is interesting because in the world of investing, in the world of, just finance in general, I think that the stats would show that it skews a lot more to men than women. Not that that's how it should be. I don't believe that's how it should be. I do think that from a caretaker standpoint, you probably have more women that are opting for that role, as a general rule. But what I'm really proud of is, so the message that I've been sharing on how to earn in a different way, like this is a message that women are really receiving and taking action on. Our mastermind has so many strong, intelligent, powerhouse women that are part of it. And it's so cool seeing women that say, hey, I would actually like to be able to have that type of income so that I can have the lifestyle I want with my family and spend time with my kids on my timetable. And it's really been cool. And so we have some natural born leaders that, that are just unbelievable women that are in this group. So not only are they attracting other, women like them, but they're leading in a way that is just so cool and so inspiring.
I love to hear that. And on the topic of that, you dedicated your book to two women in your life. Can you talk to us about who this book is dedicated to?
Yeah. So my book is, all of this is so much for and inspired by my wife and my daughter. And there are no two women that are more important in my world. And, one of the things I think is really important on this, I used to be a guy who said, oh, yeah, I value family so much. But if you checked my calendar and my schedule, it didn't necessarily align with that. At one point in my life, I might have paid lip service to valuing family the most, but my schedule showed that I valued work the most. Mm-hmm. And so now I truly honor that lip service because I want to give them, my first, energy and give them time at the beginning of the day, give them time at the end of the day. And so my wife is just incredible, and she's been very supportive through this process because it does take a lot of time to write a book. And she's been so gracious with me on all that and has been very supportive. Especially since it's taken me away from the family when I worked really hard to not have necessarily anything in my world. Mm-hmm. And then my daughter really is the true inspiration of the book. So I did an exercise back in 2006. I saw Matthew Kelly give a message. He was actually brought in by the company that I was working with at that time. And he gave this amazing message on a dreams list and coming up with 100 dreams that you would accomplish at some point in your life. And it was just so inspiring. We literally had time. I wrote down 100 dreams. I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. Well, one of the dreams I wrote down was to write a book. And I had always had this before, I shouldn't say always. For a long time, I had thought it would be cool to write a book. I didn't necessarily know what I would write it on, but I thought maybe it could be on finances, or something to do with money, or something to do with relationships, or something to do with travel, or something to do with small business. So it turns out it's a little bit of everything because it's about, the lifestyle investor. And there's a heavy focus on lifestyle. And so this whole idea, I've had friends for years say, Justin, you should write a book. You should teach this stuff. And I just haven't gotten around to doing it. And it's hard. It's just challenging to go from never being a writer. I've never written anything before to are people even going to want to read what I write? Is it even worth it to capture this? And then one of my friends said, hey, Justin, I know you've been saying that you want to do this, but you haven't really taken action on it. What would happen if you died and your daughter never knew any of this stuff? And that right there was the dagger. And I was like, holy cow, what if my daughter didn't know any of this stuff about me because she didn't have the time in her life to see it, to learn it, to experience it? And so that became my motivation to get the book done. So I literally, within days of that conversation, I started writing my book, and the process was very, let's call it exploratory. Let's call it emotional. Let's call it, I was just all over the place. It was such a cool experience, but I wrote it from the standpoint or the vantage point of her getting a chance to see the things that I've learned in this world. If anything should happen to me, in any time in the near future, which I hope doesn't happen.
I hope that doesn't happen either. And as you're saying that, I just think that's such an important point to bring up, because a lot of people could say, another finance book, another this book, another that book. But really, when you share about your family, that's when I see you light up the most, and it's really exciting. And, we've talked about the idea of legacy and what legacy you would leave. And so wrapping that up, if God forbid something happened, what do you hope? Or it doesn't, and you live and to be 150 years old, what do you hope that your legacy is?
Well, I want to create my own blue zone. I want to live a long time. My grandmother is 99 and a half. And so I would like to beat whatever she lives to, but I want to do it in a healthy way, you know. But really, the legacy that I want to leave, it's first with my family. I want them to understand that relationships matter the most, and that you can build a lifestyle that, puts those first, and everything else can come after it. But I also want to teach her that she doesn't have to work for money. I want her to work because she has a passion for it. She enjoys it. She is learning something from it, that it's inspiring. I don't want her to just take a job to make money. So part of it is the impact inside my immediate family. Part of it is the impact beyond that. So all the proceeds of this book are going to charity. And I think a lot of us take for granted, like the just natural, like as a natural byproduct, we have these freedoms and rights, and even people that are strapped for cash have so much more freedom than they realize. And so I actually want to help equip people that their true freedoms have been taken away from them, meaning they are, slaves, they're sex slaves, they're human trafficked. They don't have real human rights. And so if the proceeds can go to actually, creating a more humane place that buys true freedom, not just financial freedom, but true life freedom, I think that is going to do wonders in the world.
Wow, I didn't know that. That just gave me chills when you were talking about that. That's so nice. All right, so we're going to talk about the book in a second, but first, here's what we're going to do. We're doing something a little bit different. So I'm going to do I have a rapid fire for you here, and then we're going to kind of wrap it up. And then we're going to do what I always do is the actual rapid fire after hours, which is what I call it, at the end. So these are going to just be first thing that comes to your head. You ready?
Ready.
Okay. The first one is wealth requires
commitment.
My most gifted book is
my most gifted book.
Mm-hmm.
Whew. The book that impacted me the most was Cash Flow Quadrant.
Okay. Number 3, if I could sum up parenting in one word, it would be
time spent, quality time.
My favorite holiday destination is what?
Here in Austin.
Nice. Number 5, my best friends would call me
enthusiastic.
If I could be successful in any other profession, I'd choose to be a
teacher.
My love language is
words of affirmation.
My biggest pet peeve is
treating people like they don't matter.
My favorite chapter of your book is what?
Commandment 1, lifestyle first.
Number 10, one thing you would be surprised to know about me is?
Ooh, I could get kind of crazy here. I can put my legs behind my head. I have crazy flexibility. I don't know if that's the direction you're looking to go.
I like it. It's great. The last one is, I do more of this than most people I know.
Oh, read.
Awesome. You survived. That was so fun. All right.
Well,
so
it's funny. I'm conflicted. I have probably the easy way to answer these, or, maybe it's something for a fun conversation, or, maybe it's the, PG-13 answer. So, I'm not sure which way to go.
We can keep the rated R ones for the last one, for the later one. That's fine. Awesome. Okay. So I want to give you an opportunity. If people do want to learn more about you, when they want to buy your book, I want you to talk to us about where they can find you, what your book is, what it's about, and who it's for.
Yeah. So my book is called The Lifestyle Investor, and it's called The 10 Commandments for Cash Flow Investing. And it's for passive income and financial freedom. And basically, it's my 10 criteria for why I invest the way I invest. What causes me to make the investments that I make? So I think the book is for anyone that wants to learn how to invest differently, anyone who wants to learn how to create cash flow and learn how to create financial independence. That really is who the book is for. Do you want passive income? That is probably your book. If you want to, invest in a conventional way, or, in riskier ways, I'm probably not your guy. You can find it at justindonald.com/book. And you can also, by the way, on my website, I'm giving it away for free plus the shipping. And then there are a bunch of other things that they can check out. I've got an online course that I think is really cool. I've got a mastermind. I've got a coaching program, although I really only bring on 4 to 6 people a year. So it's, there's a bit of a waiting list, and I'm just not going to be doing a whole lot of that moving forward.
Cool. And I'm going to end with this question, which is what I ask everybody who's on the show, which is, if this episode were spread or broadcasted to the whole world for 30 seconds or a minute, what message would you have?
Really, that there's just a different way to live life on your terms, and that you can do it, that there is the opportunity that exists if you're intentional and you surround yourself with the right people and you decide to equip yourself with the right mindset. You can live a life completely on your terms, according to your design, in a way that really fulfills you and those around you.
Love it. Succinct and clear, and sums up our episode perfectly. I want to thank you, Justin. I have just enjoyed this conversation. I've really enjoyed your book. I really hope that anyone who's listening and has gotten this far, if any of this resonates, go get your book, because it will be out at this point. And I'm just so grateful. And I really do want to say, as a friend and somebody who has, I will never forget you guys bringing me a meal, and your poor wife, Jennifer, who brings me this meal, and I just burst out crying on the sidewalk. But I'm just so grateful. And there are people in life that you meet that you just feel like, wow, that is a great human being. And you are one of those people. I just adore you. And I think you and your family are really special people, really special human beings. And I'm so grateful to know you and to be able to call you a friend and to have you on the show. So thank you. Really, I'm so grateful for your time. So thanks for being here.
Well, thank you for the kind words, and the feelings are mutual, because I think that you are incredible. And I think what you're doing for the world and the message that you're broadcasting and the people that you're exposing your network to are just incredible. And it's a privilege to be on your show that I know is, primarily female led and female driven. And, it truly is an honor to be able to step in and offer what it is that I do and what I know for such an amazing group of people. So thank you. And I really do look forward to the future and, to the things to come for all of us.
Okay, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I learned so much, even just from speaking with him. It's amazing to hear how his life has progressed, where he is today, and how he's able to help so many people, just like you and me, manage their finances, make better decisions with our money, make better decisions about our life choice, how we can buy back our time so we can spend our time with who we want and on what we want. And so I wanted to remind you that I invited Justin to stay back, just answer a couple questions. Things like, what is the single biggest piece of advice that you most often tell your high paying clients? These are people who are paying him $250,000 a year. So you definitely don't want to miss that one. Also, things that costly mistakes, little simple things that he sees costing people a lot of money. And not only that, but what is the greatest tip, tool, strategy, resource that he has used in his business to help scale, to help bring him to or elevate him to the level that he is today. You don't want to miss it. It is completely free. You can find it at unbecomingpodcast.com/164. Again, unbecomingpodcast.com/164. Thank you so much. If you enjoyed this episode, please like this video, subscribe for future videos, and do me a favor and just share this video with one family member, one friend, a loved one, somebody that you care about, a community that you're a part of, who you think could find value in knowing more about their money, more about their finances, more about freedom, time freedom, financial freedom. I would really, really appreciate it. It means the world to me. Thank you so much again. And I can't wait to see you next week on another episode of Unbecoming. Have a great one.